Now, whether any of this shows that either of them is too old to lead the free world is up to you, each individual voter. But our next guest does have a fresh take on an age-old question. Is age just a number? CBS Sunday Morning correspondent Mo Rocca's new book, Roctogenarians, Late in Life Debuts, Comebacks, and Triumphs, celebrates the triumphs of people who made their biggest marks late in life. And Mo Rocca joins me now. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We'll get to the book in just a second because it's so fabulous and I love the theme of it. But, you know, as we watch these clips and, you know, everywhere you go, everybody, he's too old, Biden's too old, he can't walk, he can't talk, Trump's too old, he can't talk, he can't remember anything. It does appear to be, are those legitimate concerns, or are we also feeding into the ageism that I think is pretty prevalent in our country?
Well, I think it's both. I think it's certainly a legitimate topic of discussion. I have not examined, surprise, surprise, I've not examined either of them. But I think there are legitimate concerns about, not just in the White House, but in Congress, about a gerontocracy, about people who retain power well into old age. We're hearing a lot of those concerns. There is
especially the Senate.
Right, in the Senate especially. And there is another side to it, though. Ageism is real. It's also really stupid because the population is aging, whether we like it or not. And with that comes a lot of people with a lot of strengths, a lot of experience, a lot of resourcefulness. And that's why I wanted to write this book.
You go through a lot of examples of people who have really peaked and flourished and done the most extraordinary things in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Several of the people, let's see, Colonel Sanders, who started Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s. You have actress and comedian Carol Channing, who found and married the love of her life when she was 82. Henri Matisse, who at 71 became no longer able to paint because of cancer and figured out a new way to create art.
Right, he traded his paintbrush for a big pair of scissors. And that's a story that I love because it shows that endings are beginnings if you have the right attitude. So cancer robbed him of the ability to paint. And instead of just sort of sitting around and playing a highlights reel of his greatest hits, which he could have done, he could have taken a bunch of victory laps. He was Henri Matisse, he was already world famous. But instead, he grabbed a pair of scissors, painted paper, and then what began was an epoch, a brilliant career as with paper cutouts, his art, that it's its own era.
You also cite somebody who was one of my favorite interviews of all time, Frank McCourt, who wrote Angela's Ashes. He really was an extraordinary man. He wrote that book, Angela's Ashes, at 66? It
was published when he was 66, and what I find so poignant and powerful about the story is he was a high school English teacher. His students loved his stories of growing up in Limerick, Ireland. Everyone was telling him, you've got to write your story. And he struggled and struggled because he didn't feel that his story was worth telling. He was ashamed of the poverty of his childhood, but he finally decided in his own words that he would die howling if he didn't get the story out. And when he did write it, and it was a literary sensation, he said, it took me 2 years and all of my life to write this book. And I just find it, anyone who thinks their story isn't worth telling is very sad to me. So thank God he told his story.
So why do you think we've always had this, you know, sort of attitude that the last third of your life, it's time to, like, go sit quietly in the corner? Yeah, wrap it up, baby. You're almost done. Get out of the way.
Right. I mean, I think it might be our own fear of getting old, so we like to put a distance between ourselves and really old people. And I think that's probably a big part of it, fear of getting old ourselves. But I think it's just really foolish because there's all this capital, all this talent that we're just wasting.
You know, scientists say the happiest age is age 70.
Right. Yeah, I think what happens in scientists also say that absolutely the recall of proper names will start to slip, but judgment takes off. I did a cooking show with grandmothers and grandfathers across the country in their kitchen, and what I learned is that the older you get, the less you care about what other people think of you, and that is its
freeing,
own.
it's liberating.
It's freeing, it's liberating, and your mind becomes uncluttered, unfettered, and you start making decisions in a clearer way.
Well,
and you're doing it for the future. You're not doing it for yourself. Public servants, and they are in the book, who did great things late in life, it's very powerful because they're doing it for a world that they're unlikely to enjoy themselves.
very quickly, is there a single character trait of people who do go on to really peak actually in their 60s, 70s, or 80s?
I think they're not looking backward. They're not looking backward, and they're not fretting. So
Okay.
I think that's part of it.
All right, everybody,
acting.
don't worry, act, get out there and do. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.